having issues with Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
So all of our episodes are live and available.
On Apple Podcasts?
Yes. But I don't know why my account is in Dutch.
All right, well,
So
goedendag
I
mevrouw.
It's literally like...
We have to call Alex to translate every time we get into it.
It's just like, Fulgen. And then it's like...
Oh yeah, Fulgen.
Voor 3 dagen.
Wait, I'm glad to know they're on Apple Podcasts now.
Also, I'm guessing that it's Dutch. I have no idea.
Could it be German?
It could be German. You know when like the 2 dots are above...
An umlaut above the
Oh my
U?
God, that is so funny.
I was picturing
Oh, that's
our
so funny.
episodes being translated and an AI voice speaking them in Dutch. And I'm like, I wonder how you say Aries season is humping me in Dutch.
Oh, I'd like to know.
Welcome to Cousin Closet. I'm Maddy.
Welcome. I'm Emily.
We were together this weekend, and as promised, we did try to do a sleepover slumber party episode. Hi.
Where we got high
Uh-huh.
and we had a whole thing of things that we wanted to unpack.
We had a whole plan, and unfortunately, we did not set up all of the technology before we were high.
Prior to being high.
So as it kept hitting, I kept getting dumber and honestly meaner.
You did.
I was just
Okay,
doing my best.
First off, I just want to take a moment to thank my partner in crime because I will admit I did nothing for the pod this week. I
Thank
was
you.
in Salt Lake City for a conference trying to figure out my own profession, which I loved, but I recognized that it put a burden on you. And I so thank you for taking on the technological things.
You did give me some energetic adjustments that did keep me from crashing out. So in a way, you were helping. And
That's so
also,
true.
you were in a good mood. And every time I saw you, you had something you had to tell me where I knew you were going to go like, and then... And it was going to be a silent 30 seconds while I waited for you to tell me, and that would get me into a good mood. So
Okay,
that was
here's
helpful.
the thing. I feel like I was so grounded this weekend. Okay, some context. I flew in Wednesday night,
Mhm.
and then I was in a conference every single day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, basically for about 10-ish hours. And with like heavy anatomical information being thrown at me, think of like a lab, like where you're assessing and actually giving each other like practice. But I feel like I came back each night and I feel like I was
You were pumped.
I was pumped. I
You
was
were humped.
inspired. I was humped. I was in a good mood.
You went
I
to a
just, like-
humping convention?
Yeah, exactly. I just needed to really fine tune that as I get into the dating scene.
I will say, Emily should move here for many reasons, but she did see a slew of men she was attracted to, which is rare.
No, literally. Okay, I will say I visited, well, it's controversial how many times I've actually visited Utah in my life. It's something that we are...
She thinks that it was equal that we went to Oregon as much as she came to Utah. No. And
But
again,
here's the
it's not
thing.
your fault.
Yeah, and also my sister did point out the fact that she doesn't remember a lot of her childhood. I, too, don't remember a lot of my childhood, so I'm not sure why I'm trying to die on this hill. So,
I remember all of our childhoods.
but, well... I love that. Let me know how it was. Actually, don't, because I already
don't
have
wanna
an
tell you.
inkling.
You just keep yourself where you are, and when you figure it out, just let me
in
know.
my joy, and we're not getting out of that. Okay, so I will say I've been to Utah enough to know that, you know, you don't see hot men every day on every single street corner. But when I was on my break, I was like in like the heart of like downtown SLC. Literally, I only had an hour break, you know. I saw several hot men, like 25 around there.
Whoa.
And honestly, that's so many. I was not
Is there a
looking
chance you're
hot.
just horny?
No. Are you hornier when you're on your period?
I think it depends person
to me,
to
it's
person.
it's up in the air.
I get horny during my follicular phase because I'm feeling good.
well, yeah, and you're feeling hot, you're feeling good, you're feeling.
I'm like, I could do a backflip right now.
It's literally biology. Like,
Yeah.
you need to reproduce. Sometimes I'm hornier when I'm on my period, but if I'm feeling more endo-y, then I'm not. I'm like, do not enter me, do not touch me, don't even look at me. You know?
In that order. Do not enter me. Do not touch me. And last, do not look at me. got rules and I'm rigid.
But honestly,
We had such a lovely time.
it was so fun. I honestly was telling her that I felt homesick when I left, and
I feel it too. It really felt like
yeah.
you lived here, and I was really
my
loving
goal
it.
is to try and come there quarterly if I can.
Hell yeah.
Not to make this like a corporation, but like
No.
feel
I like
like-
that goal.
okay.
When I have money, I'm going to come visit you more.
Yeah.
So back to the sleepover episode.
Oh, yes.
Technical difficulties that either will result in the funniest episode that we have ever made that is extremely difficult to listen to, but worth
Every
the
second.
effort, or it's going to be
In
the
the
most upsetting, unpleasant, god-awful sounds layering and echoing off each other, us snapping at each other, and Emily eating chips and me getting mad at her for it.
Listen, I don't get high very often, and when I do, if you're gonna put food,
Girl, you
near
needed the
me,
Doritos.
it's gonna be gone.
Well,
Like
and
I have
again, same.
No,
We just can't do it on the pod.
yeah, and
'Cause it
that's
was like,
okay.
We're
It
not trying to
was.
give them
like,
that.
she was so upset.
Okay,
Literally the
I
next day,
wasn't
she was like, I
so
think that was
upset.
actually the most frustrated I've been with you in like a matter of like years.
but I don't yell.
She doesn't. No.
I only
very
insulted
healthy.
you gently.
I don't even remember what you said.
I don't either, but I'm like, I know I didn't say anything too personal. I was trying to be patient, but also I was like, I'm tired. I've been setting this
Also-
up for hours. I had an idea what's going to happen. I don't know what's wrong. She's chewing in my ear and she hasn't done a goddamn thing. But then it was fine.
And honestly, that's so fair because I literally was just sitting there on the bed doing nothing.
Yeah, and then I would just like
crying,
have my headphones on and all of a
eating
sudden
so
hear
much.
like just like a series of reels. So if you want to know, swipe like
Oh
So,
my
again,
God.
stay tuned. We'll see if that happens. In lieu
Yeah.
of that episode, Emily gave us a new outfit theme for this episode, which was
There was a phrase.
April flowers.
Bring May
No, April showers.
showers.
Bring May,
May
flowers.
I think actually I gave spring and then you made that phrase. Or like you didn't design it obviously, but like that was your inspo.
I am the author of April showers. Bring May flowers.
Have you ever heard of it?
My name is April Flowers, and I stand on this. My name is April Flowers, and I approve this message.
No. Do you want to get into outfits?
Yeah, I think we should. I am wearing a floor-length silk slip. It has lace at the top. It's a V-neck. And very thin spaghetti straps. It's a very subtle pattern. It looks just like kind of white from far away or with lights on it, but it has pastel flowers and leaves all over it.
Cute.
And I have tried to style it before, but it's quite see-through, so I just haven't. But it felt perfect for this. I'm wearing my strappy little sandal heels.
I love those.
They really are a staple for me. And I thought, do I go more gaudy kitschy like usual, or do I go simple fresh? The advice I was given from multiple people was simple fresh. So instead of a big gaudy cross that I was going to wear, I'm just wearing this little
She's in her
rosebud
femme era.
choker. And honestly, yeah, feeling femme, feeling fresh, feeling springy, and very cozy. I'm going to be lounging in this all day. That's my outfit. That's the shortest I have ever.
That's the shortest. The fact that you're already done,
The fact that I'm done
shocked.
is shocking. Yeah, I
It
might as
is
well be
really shocking.
naked.
Totally. I mean, you've got like one very sheer
I have
garment.
one layer,
and that never happens.
but you
So-
can't see my nipples though.
No. You can see mine, but I decided to put on those cute little pasties so I could keep this at least PG-13.
Yesterday I was looking for nail polish remover at my sister's house, and I grabbed it, and I look over, just one single pasty squished up against the nail polish remover, so it was like the label was covered.
I don't really like those. I don't like the jelly ones. I just use the ones that you throw away. Like they just
I don't
literally
use any.
stick on.
I will say, I have been contemplating getting my nipple pierced. The only thing that is keeping
Oh
me
my
from doing
God.
it is the
Okay.
recovery time and like the recovery pain, you know?
I mean, like what do your boobs go through? Mine just sit
What do
here
you
all
mean?
day. Like mine are in recovery all the time. Just not moving and
Mine move more than yours do.
yeah,
Okay.
I know.
Sometimes when I'm on my period, I have to hold them as I walk downstairs or
Yeah,
it's
I
too
don't understand
painful.
that. Also, I feel like the last like 5 episodes that we've had, we've talked about our tits and just
As we
analyze them
should.
in multiple different ways and angles.
And that's all right, honey. This
Yeah.
is the thing. I don't wear bras, so they're going to be bouncing, but also they're going to be brushing up against my shirt.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's not a full yes yet. It's one of those things where I've always known I probably wanted to pierce at least one nipple, but it's just,
I didn't
it
know this
hasn't
about you,
presented
though.
itself yet. Yeah, I've contemplated it for a long
But
time.
it doesn't shock me.
No,
Like,
no,
I
no.
could
It fits
see-
with the
I could-
brand.
Yeah, it does fit with the brand. I love
Yeah.
it. Well, I'm going to get into my outfit. So I, too, kind of went the little skimpy lingerie route. I don't know who got this for me, but I got it from my bachelorette party. Almost like half of a corset. It's giving...
It's what goes under the corset for like a peasant.
Yes, it's giving peasant. It's sheer. It's lavender. It's got little polka dots. I don't think that is being picked up on.
Sexy, coquette, lavender haze peasant.
Yes, I'm here for it. And then I'm wearing this skirt that I thrifted. I think it's from Anthropology, but it is an army green with a lot of like different patterns of tulips and different florals. And
Is it embroidered? Or
Yeah,
is
I
it
guess you could say it's embroidered. It's got like a
Pretty.
thickening of
its
like a
lining is
knit.
thickening just like
Yeah.
yours?
Yeah, just like my uterus.
Mhm.
And then I am wearing these shoes that are, of course, Audrey's because I pulled out the only heels that I have and I realized that my dog chewed them up. And I'm
Don't
so
worry.
sad.
I took a screenshot of the moment she knew, and I will be posting it on Instagram. You know what? Probably to the song The Moment I Knew by Taylor Swift.
I'm
Just picturing
so
you looking at it
sad.
like this. You should have been
Uh,
there. You should
Yeah.
have burst through the door with that baby. I'm right here.
I
Smile.
will say, if any of you guys have pets that are high maintenance, I
Help.
get it because I think I genuinely feel like a single pet mom, and he requires ideally like 3 hours of exercise a day, and that is a lot. I got a
I
nice little
can't
break. Shout out to
even
Audrey for watching Bonzi
Give that to
because
myself.
I needed a mom's weekend away.
Mom needed to
because
get humped in Salt Lake City. Mom had a humping convention in Salt Lake City, and baby had to stay back with the friends.
the last thing that I have are these teardrop pearl earrings. I went for like raindrops, like rain brings,
The showers part?
The showers part, yeah.
Yeah. I thought about just getting in the shower, getting soaking wet, and coming in my towel as my outfit.
Honestly, I should have done that, and I
Kinda funny,
don't
huh?
know if I should actually admit this to the internet, but I had a flight yesterday, and I still haven't showered.
It's fine, Emily. Your flight was
Okay.
late. You
It
showered
was so
right
late.
before your flight.
I did, because I felt gross, and then I showered, and then I still felt gross.
I washed my hair
And-
yesterday, but then I took a toddler to the zoo for an hour in 80-degree weather when it was extremely hot, and I only had one
Yeah.
other person to help me. And honestly, it wasn't a crash out situation at all. But after an hour, I was like, "Yeah, let's hit the hay.
Yeah, hit
I'm
the hay.
sweaty."
You're like, oh, I can't do this. Let's go to bed.
Wait, hit the hay. You're right. That's sleep. Let's hit the road, Jack. And don't you
Hit the
come
road,
back no
Jack.
more, no more, no more, no more. Wait, let's hit the road and go to Shake Shack no more, no, because that's where we went.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Should I get into what we're unpacking today?
I'm really excited about this because it's been a bit since I've dabbled in this specific
Modality.
modality.
Mhm.
So take it away, Mads.
Yeah. So basically, my hyperfixation now is astrology. But what we're unpacking today, the Enneagram, for me, walked so that astrology could run. I mean, obviously, astrology has been around for thousands of years, and the Enneagram did start in the 50s.
I also wouldn't be surprised. Did you see if there's any connection?
So, didn't know if I should get into the history because it is a little bit boring. But basically, around the 20th century, the symbol of the Enneagram was based in Greek philosophy. Over time, it kind of started to be refined by different philosophers, different people who were expanding on what it meant. Until eventually, I can't remember their first names or which one came first, but there's someone with the last name Riso and someone with the last name Hudson. And together, they created this Enneagram test
Okay.
and concept. So basically, what the Enneagram is the personality assessment.
Yeah.
The theory behind the Enneagram is that there are 9 personality types. And these types are based on perceptions, on values, on your morals, on the way
Kind
you
of like
relate to
how
other
you
people.
operate with yourself and also with other people in different systems.
Exactly. It's like your point of view, it's how you communicate. And what's interesting and I like about the Enneagram is it's more based in your motivation for why you're doing what you're doing rather than just how you're showing up externally. I referenced a lot of this just from this book. It's called Discovering Your Personality Type, and it's by Don Richard Riso and Russ Hudson. So I had their names right here all along.
Don and Russ.
This is eventually what I read after I had just been dabbling in the Enneagram, and I like it now to be able to reference it.
Who introduced the Enneagram to you?
Megan, your sister.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Megan introduced it to me, and
I didn't know that.
then all of our siblings caught on. My sister-in-law, Mackenzie, read this book and recommended it. So I've had it. It's been a little while since I went back to it, so it's been really fun, actually, to remember the bits and pieces. They talk about how there are 4 different selves. Past self, present self, ideal self, and the external self that other people see you as.
Okay, I'm already learning something because I did not know that.
So the focus of the Enneagram is always on the past self, who you have been and how you have been for the majority of your life.
Okay.
So when you're trying to calculate which type you are, you can take a test. There is a test. I mean, there's many online you can take. There's a test in this book that you can take and calculate your score just by hand. But when you are discovering which type you are, focusing on who you were in the past, who you were as a child, and how you have been for most of your life, rather than like the adult healed version that you are now, is the important focus.
I always thought of the Enneagram as like, you know, my sister has 2 kids, and I would think like, oh, I wonder what Enneagram like the kids are. But then we would joke that like, oh, they haven't been traumatized yet enough in order to like take on a mask. So almost like the Enneagram is like this mask that you take on in order to like fit into the world, is kind of how I understand the Enneagram.
Yeah, I mean, mask is totally a way that you could put it because it is like a presentation. This is just how you've adapted and like the way you make sense of life, the way you're impacted by life, what your motivations are for doing what you're doing, etc.
Okay, think about, there's the Enneagram, there's Myers-Briggs, there's your Clifton Strengths Finder. Like all of these are tools, and what I like is to be able to be just a little bit more introspective to the way that I engage with the world, and then also the why behind it.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
I'm going to give quick 2 caveats. 1, I'm out of Adderall, so I'm not on top of my game today, but whatever. 2, I did get my first sunburn of the year. I was wearing a short sleeve shirt and sunglasses, so I have had a red nose, the Rudolph reindeer. You know what I mean.
I love it. It doesn't look burnt today, honestly.
Makeup!
You look sun-kissed, and it works really, really well with your red hair.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
You're
Emily.
welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, so now that we have a general overview of what the Enneagram is, I'm going to go through briefly these 9 types. I'm just going to give what it's called, and then I'm going to give 4 descriptor words. This is not the end-all be-all. There is a lot more nuance that I will get into after I kind of give the overview of what they are. So, without further ado, these are kind of divided into like archetypes. That's a good way to put it. It's like 9 different archetypes. Whichever one you feel like you have been for the majority of your life, the motivator for why you've done what you've done. So I'm going to start from the top. So type 1, this is called the reformer. The reformer is principled, purposeful, self-controlled, and perfectionistic.
I think depending on where you're getting the information, I've also heard type 1, the reformer, is also called the perfectionist.
Type 2 is the helper. Generous, demonstrative, people-pleasing, possessive. Again, this is not the entire scope. These are just some overall qualities. Number 3, the achiever. Adaptable, excelling, driven, and image-conscious. Type 4, the individualist. Expressive, dramatic, self-absorbed, temperamental. I also will say, this is just hitting me now that this was created from this perspective of 2 men, and while I do think that sometimes men have something to offer the world, it is just now occurring to me that some of these might be somewhat biased in terms of gender
Like
or
a
stereotypes.
Male's perspective.
Yeah, and maybe not.
That's an
I
assumption.
just have to say that from now, like as
Yeah.
I was going through this. So I will continue. Type 5, the investigator. Perceptive, innovative, secretive, and isolated. Type 6, the loyalist, which is the only one that this book actually gives a second term to, also called the troubleshooter. Interesting. The loyalist is engaging, responsible, anxious, and suspicious. Type 7, the enthusiast. Spontaneous, versatile, distractible, and scattered. Type 8 is the challenger, self-confident, decisive, willful, confrontational. And last but not least, type 9, which is the peacemaker, receptive, reassuring, accommodating, and also complacent. So that is the very, very basic overview to what the 9 different types are. And as we get into how they're organized on the chart themselves, we'll figure out which different qualities are emphasized depending on how you show up, how healthy you are, and also what other influences you have in the chart.
The thing that I like about the Enneagram is that there is a specific emphasis on how you show up healthy versus unhealthy, because that I don't think is always interpreted from a lot of these like typical assessments. I also don't typically like being put in a box. That's why I like astrology, because of the fact that, you know, you can lean on your rising, your moon. It's all unique to you. One of the things that someone had mentioned with the Enneagram that I actually really like, again, kind of going along with the not wanting to be put in a box, think about like the color wheel. You have like red, blue, green. The Enneagram really encompasses, like, there is a zillion different shades as far as colors out there, like color combinations and shades and all of these things. That's how I picture the Enneagram. Say you fall into a type 1, but it's not just explicitly, oh, I'm a type 1. There's a lot of different components.
Well, and that's what's interesting is because there are other types that are taken into account, but overall, when it comes to the actual Enneagram, it's made for you to have one main type that never changes. And that's like your core self and type. And then again, I'll get into how they interact with the other different types and the qualities that you take on from each of them, depending on what you're experiencing.
You laughed at me when I said I didn't want to be put in a box, and I think this is reiterating what a type I am. So
exactly.
Keep going.
You picked up exactly on what I was experiencing. We'll get to that. So the Enneagram itself, the chart is a circle with the 9 different numbers around the circle. This circle is divided into 3 different triads. Each triad emphasizes a different type of expression. So I'll start with the feeling triad. This is type 2, the helper, type 3, the achiever, and type 4, the individualist. This triad is motivated by feeling. Their most dominant emotion is shame.
Interesting.
So 2s, the helpers, they compensate for their shame by getting others to want and need and love and like them. Type 3s deny their shame because they are out of touch with their feelings, and there is a sense of inadequacy and a fear of that running the show behind the scenes that causes them to deny their shame. Type 4s avoid their shame completely and focus exclusively on their individuality and their uniqueness in order to cope. So that's the feeling triad. Next, we get into the thinking triad. This is type 5, the investigator, type 6, the loyalist, and type 7, the enthusiast. These are all the thinking triad. The dominant emotion that they feel is anxiety. Again, each of them have their own way of coping with that. So type 5, the investigator, they have anxiety about the outer world and their capacity to cope with the outer world. Because, fun little fact, type 5s wake up with the same amount of energy every single day. So they are rationing their energy, worried about their capacity to be able to fit into the world. Type 6 is the loyalist. This is the most anxious type. Very anxious and out of touch with their inner knowing. That's where their anxiety comes from. Type 7, the enthusiast, it's anxiety of an inner world. So this fear of experiencing pain or anything uncomfortable and coping with outside possibilities and options, dreaming, essentially. So that's the thinking triad. The final triad is the instinctive triad. This is type 8, the challenger, type 9, the peacemaker, and type 1, the reformer.
That's so fascinating. Okay, go into that, because I think I've heard of the feeling triad. I haven't heard of the other 2 triads.
It is really interesting because it gives perspective, again, about the motivation for why the behavior is showing up the way that it is.
Yeah.
So for the instinctive triad, the dominant feeling is anger or rage. So type 8, the challenger, when they experience anger, there needs to be an immediate response and like a physical reaction. Whether that's something vocal, whether that's moving your body, it's very quick and reactive. Type 8s do not like to be controlled. That's a huge motivator for them. Type 9, the peacemaker, they deny their anger and deny their instincts, almost as if to say, like, what anger? That's not to say that type 9s don't experience anger, but they choose to deny that it exists in order to cope with that anger and that rage. Bottlers. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And then finally, type 1, the reformer, they control and repress their anger by repressing their instincts. So it's based in a fear their anger is going to lead them to be out of control. So instead, they just suppress all of their instincts. And it is very perfectionist driven. So those are the 3 triads. Very fascinating. Would love to hear your thoughts on that so far.
All right. I'm just going to hint at the fact that I am a part of the feeler triad, so I very much understood that. I'm thinking about the people in my life and where they fall within the Enneagram. The instinctive triad, that was really interesting. I have a lot of 8s, 9s, and 1s.
Whoa, you do attract 8s, 9s, and 1s.
Yeah,
or just surrounded by them.
My dad is an 8, my mom is a 9, my brother-in-law is a 9, my ex-husband is a 1.
Yeah.
So very interesting. Yeah, I think I'm just processing that because this makes a lot of sense why there was maybe a potential disconnect of different motivator in life and a different perspective of like way of living from the feeling versus the way in which they are motivated.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So the next thing I want to talk about is called wings. A lot of the time, you will heavily identify with one type. And I like to think of it as the one that kind of hits you and is like, whoop! That's me and I would like to hide. And maybe that's me speaking because the emotion that I experience is shame. But whatever triggers you in a way that makes you slightly uncomfortable because it's seeing a little too close, heading a little too close to home, that's likely the type that you identify with most. And also, usually, most people have a wing that is incorporated into their personality. Now, a wing is one of the numbers on either side of the main number that you are.
Can you be balanced and have kind of an equal wing from both sides?
I mean, surely anything is possible. And again, it ultimately comes down to the perception of the person who's doing this, you know? Because yes, you can take a test, but when it comes down to it, you know yourself better than other people. And you can very easily take a test with bias and take it to receive the answers that you want to reinforce your own idea of yourself.
So it really depends on how self-aware you are, too. I think that's what's really hard with these assessments.
The Enneagram requires a lot of self-honesty. And a little bit later, when Emily and I are talking about our types, I will get into my journey for figuring out my type and how it was very much so not straightforward or streamlined because I didn't want to face the truth of who I am and what motivates me, because that's my core wound.
I think we have very similar approaches to
Thank God.
This. Yeah.
So when it comes to wings, I'm not going to get into like super heavy detail, but I do want to just mention quickly what that would look like. So I'm going to start with the 1s and the wings that are possible for the 1s, very tiny descriptor of each, and just go through. So type 1, the reformer, the one that's the perfectionist, can either lean 1 wing 9, which is this perfectionist persona with a hint of that peacemaker energy that wants to deny their anger. Or there could be a 1, the perfectionism, wing 2, with the desire to incorporate that helper mentality that is people-pleasing. So that's 1 wing 9 is perfectionist and peacemaker having a baby. 1 wing 2 is perfectionist and helper having a baby. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. So then when it comes to 2, it's the same thing. It could be the helper with an emphasis on perfectionism and doing things correctly, or it could be the helper with an emphasis on achieving and being seen as successful. So the motivation for being liked also coming from wanting to be like perceived as somebody who is successful and achieving. Basically. 3s, the achiever, can either lean 2, where their main goal is to be seen as somebody who is successful, but they will do that through people-pleasing. Or 3 wing 4, which is they will do that through extreme individuality and an emphasis on their uniqueness. 4s, the individualist, so someone who's motivated by being seen as unique, can lean 4 wing 3, which is I want to be seen as an individual, and I also have the motivation to be seen as successful, or 4 wing 5, which is I am an individual, but I also am going to be much more internal and very aware of how I fit into the world and almost intimidated by bridging that gap. 5 is more focused on structure, honestly, and consistency. It's research-driven. It's information-driven. So when it leans 4, that takes a turn that is a little bit more based in being seen as an individual. And when it leans 6, it takes a turn to be a little bit more anxious-driven and fear-driven rather than driven by wanting to be seen for who you are. It's almost like being driven by not being seen too much and being able to maintain control in that way. 6, wing 5 is the anxious one, leaning toward structure and seeking structure to help their anxiety. A 6 wing 7 is the anxious one who leans more outward expression in order to avoid their anxiety. A 7 wing 6 is going to be primarily based in having their needs fulfilled and met externally, while also leaning slightly anxious and requiring more stability than maybe they'll lead on. A 7 wing 8 is going to, again, be motivated by having their needs fulfilled and also by not being controlled by others. So there's something more forceful about their needs and having their needs met. An 8 wing 7 is going to be primarily the challenger who doesn't like to be controlled and reacts instinctively with anger. The wing 7 will create some spontaneity to that and almost a more self-motivated lens.
I think like charisma. Melding like the 8 and the 7, I think of someone who's like a challenger, yet also does it with this like charismatic nature.
Chaperone. I know she's an Enneagram 8 because she has said it in interviews, but as soon as you said that, it is that essence of, I don't give a fuck because I am living for me externally.
Yeah.
An 8 wing 9 is such an interesting type for me because they seem like polar opposite placements.
They do.
An 8 is based, again, in that feeling of not being controlled and acting instinctively. But the 9 is the peacemaker, which is almost, again, denying these feelings exist. So there's a really interesting tension there of like, I'm reacting, but at the same time, there is an underlying need to keep the peace that is not being addressed and I think can lead to passive aggression.
100%. That's all I'll say.
That's all you'll say. And finally, we have the 9s. 9, the peacemaker, so motivated by making sure that everything is going right by denying themselves of their feelings. 9 wing 1 is going to lean into being a perfectionist in order to keep the peace and trying to do things quote unquote right. 9 wing 8 is going to lean into being more external in order to keep the peace, even if it's not necessarily genuine.
Okay.
So those are the wings. A lot of information, take it in, go back and re-listen if you need to, but I do think it's interesting to really be able to solidify which type you think you are based on the wings. It provides a little bit of extra emphasis and nuance so that you can really lock in.
And again, what I like about the Enneagram is that not only does it offer like a lot of self-reflection, but maybe self-reflection is not your strong suit. You can also utilize this as far as recognizing other people's patterns and behaviors and why they engage with you the way that they do, because again, it shows their clear motivator from their primary Enneagram number to then also their wings and how they engage with you.
That's such a good point. So the next thing I want to talk about is the development levels. Within each type, there are 9 different development levels divided into 3 different groups: healthy levels, average levels, and unhealthy levels. Starting with the healthy levels, the first level is liberation. You are free, you are in your power, you are able to act as you please. The second level of healthy is psychological capacity. So even if you're not free, you have the psychological capacity to understand what you're feeling and how to implement what you need, what you desire, etc. The third level of healthy is social value. So you can access those parts of you in order to contribute socially and in order to participate in humanity and be a part of the world, which is still healthy. It's not necessarily full freedom, but it is still healthy. Then we get into the average levels, which first one is imbalance / like your social roles. So when that social value moves from being motivated by your own health to starting to be more people-pleasy, that's when things start to get imbalanced. And that's the first level of average levels of development. The next level of average is interpersonal control. Projection, I think, is what it essentially comes down to, because you're having these interpersonal interactions, and rather than acknowledging the truth for either person, there is an underlying projection that is just driving the show. This is right smack dab in the middle of the development levels.
Also, I feel like projection is a newer concept for me that I've truly started to understand as I engage with other people. And
interesting.
how common it is that when you are engaging, having conversations with even healthy people, how much projection is just a very, very natural like defense mechanism that we don't even know. And I feel like even like the healthiest people can still struggle with it.
Well, yeah, because it's like the way we protect ourselves and don't have to take accountability.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It makes sense that that's where we go to as children when we start to understand that things aren't safe, that we're looking externally to be like, well, how can I make myself feel safe? Because if I'm unsafe internally, well, that's just not going to do.
Yeah.
You know, so it must be somebody else. So the last level of average development is overcompensation. Very simple, straightforward, when the motivation switches to overdrive in order to meet an external need. So now we're going to get into the unhealthy levels. The first level of unhealthy is violation. So the overcompensating gets taken a little too far to the point where you're betraying your own values and potentially other people's as well. The next level is obsession or compulsion. So this violation becoming, again, something that you can't stop thinking about, stop acting on, and does become compulsive in a way that is detrimental to you. The final level of unhealthy is pathological destructiveness. So with the pathological destructiveness, it's basically like the opposite of liberation. Rather than feeling like you are able to be your own person and act based on what you know to be true, you are essentially giving yourself away. It's outside of you. It's honestly giving like psychosis. So those are the levels of development, meaning I can be a type 4, but I could be anywhere from 1 to 9, depending on how grounded I am in myself, how aware I am, how healthy I am. And I will present totally differently when I am fully liberated versus when I am pathologically destructive. Been on both sides. It's tough, but you can make it out.
Yeah, health is possible.
So the next thing I want to talk about is how there are 2 different directions that you can go when it comes to your type. There's integration, which is growth and expansion. Every type goes toward a different type when they are growing. And there's disintegration or stress. So that same type will go toward a different type when they're experiencing stress. Let's talk integration first. So when there's growth, when ones, the reformers, the perfectionists, are growing, expanding, they go towards 7. 7 being the enthusiast, focused on having their needs met. And it goes in order. So type 7 then goes to type 5 when it is growing. It takes its external self and it becomes more focused and regimented in a way that is more contained. Type 5 in growth moves to type 8. So normally quite structured and analytical will lead toward being more vocal and more reactive rather than contained in themselves. Type 8, the challenger, will move in growth from being domineering and reactive to the helper, type 2, where they apply that same force or reaction to helping other people. So they become almost like extremely loyal, rooting for the underdog in that situation. Type 2, the helper, the people pleaser, when they are in growth, they move toward 4 and they become more individualistic, more sure of themselves, more comfortable with their uniqueness. Type 4, the individualist, when they are growing, they move toward 1, which is the reformer or the perfectionist who's able to take their individualism and become more principled with it, more resourceful with it, and more self-controlled.
Like use it as a strength versus I feel like 4s, it can almost like inhibit you a little bit. If it's not organized, maybe more tamed. I hate to say it.
4 is kind of like, I'm an individual, but that can feel kind of shameful. So when you are growing, being able to like stand in that and use your uniqueness in order to create something through like principled measure, that's what that experience is. So we'll get into disintegration now. This is what happens when each of these types are stressed. Let's start with type 1, the reformer. Their perfectionism, when they are in distress, goes toward type 4, which can be more individual, closed off, moody, and more of a victim mentality, I would say. And in the sense that like, nobody understands me. 4, the individualist, when they are in distress, they move from being an individual grounded in themselves to being a people-pleasing. I will perform externally in order to be liked, loved, perceived in a certain way that is seen as helpful and good. Type 2, the helper, the people pleaser, in stress goes to type 8. So when they are naturally there to help other people and be very generous, if they're in distress, that can lead to being very controlling and domineering taking on those qualities of the 8, the challenger. When the 8, the challenger, is in stress, they move toward 5. So instead of it being reactive from a place of emotion, the 5 energy is quite secretive, quite isolated. They will retreat.
It's almost giving calculated.
Yeah, it is a little calculated because you're avoiding being perceived as you are. And so instead of being controlled, you will just relinquish control by removing yourself entirely. Goodbye. I'm out.
Yeah.
Type 5, the investigator, will go from being innovative and perceptive. They move toward 7. So then they become more selfish, aware of their external needs, and focusing primarily on having those all met rather than the internal regulation that they are normally motivated by. And then type 7, the enthusiast, who is motivated by having their needs met and is versatile and distractible. When they are in distress, they move toward type 1. So they become more critical, more perfectionistic, rather than open to the possibilities.
That's clear because I feel like that's definitely not the 7's typical MO unless they're under a lot of stress.
Exactly. So then type 9, the peacemaker, when they are in distress, they go toward type 6, which is extreme anxiety and fear of lack of security. Type 6, the loyalist, which is the anxious one, but also, again, the troubleshooter, the one who's going to kind of work through the mud for the sake of safe connection. When they're in distress, they move toward 3 and they become more aware of, are other people seeing me as successful? Do I appear as the achiever? Very aware of how other people are perceiving them and whether or not they can see through this facade. And finally, type 3, the achiever, who is normally motivated by being seen as successful. When they are in distress, disintegration, they move toward 9, which is the peacemaker, and become passive, avoidant, and just kind of let things flow rather than risk being seen as not successful.
This is all making so much sense.
Yeah. So then the last thing I want to say before I give the example of Emily's and my types and how they are shown is that there are also 3 different instincts within each type. And these instincts really tell you how you go about getting what you need. So the instincts are self-preservation, sexual, and social. So self-preservation instinct is like nesting, becoming preoccupied with safety, with comfort, with health. It's very physical. It's very grounded in the body. It's very obsessed with your well-being and having enough resources to really meet life's demands.
So each type has these 3?
So within your type, your instinct will either be self-preservation, sexual, or social.
So it's one of the 3, not all 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can either be self-preservation, sexual, or social. You might recognize yourself in most, but I notice that there is one, again, that I identify with more that is more my instinct rather than what I want or like just what is most natural to my instincts.
Okay.
So that was self-preservation. The next one is sexual. And off the bat, this one is not just based in sexuality, in sensuality, or in like the act of sex. Those who have sexual instinct have this intense drive for intimacy and for this constant awareness of chemistry and connection. And they are moving toward intimacy and intensity. So the final instinct is social, and this is the most adaptive of them all. Some people, again, will mistype themselves as social just because they like being around people or they're extroverted. But really, when you have social instincts, you adapt to serve the needs of a social situation. This is where I go to when I'm masking. And that's how I know it's not my core instinct. Because what I truly need is intimacy, intensity, and like definite, pure chemistry connection.
Yeah.
What I do when I people please, when I go into distress, is I go into this social place of being adaptive. What do they need from me and how do I show up? How do I change myself to show up? So when you have social instinct, you're seeking personal connection. It's all driven by personal connection, but it's like based in wanting this long-term contact and commitment and like being involved in somebody's life long term. So you're willing to adapt yourself in order to have that kind of finality.
Or you're not and you get a divorce.
I know that was a lot of information. I wanted to lay out everything so that if you would like to go back and listen and kind of map out what is you, what feels like your mom, whatever, do so. I want to give some examples by talking about Emily's and my Enneagram types, which are quite similar, but I do actually think are slightly different.
And I'm so intrigued to hear what you feel are aligned versus different because based off of this conversation, I actually think you and I are more similar than I even thought. So take it away. Diagnose me, baby.
Well, How about I start with mine and then you tell me
Okay.
yours? Because though I do love diagnosing people, I'm trying this new thing, like letting other people tell me who they are before I dig into their soul and decide for them.
No, I'm also trying that.
It's really tough.
It's both like in my personal life and also in my professional life, like
Yeah.
allowing people to understand themselves and their bodies so that they can feel empowered, and then I can kind of affirm or add in a little sprinkle as needed, you know?
You know, it's not easy being psychic because sometimes people just think you're being a cunt, but you're like, I'm trying to help you, but I guess I'll be quiet. Okay, you don't want my help? Well, okay.
So true. Sorry, I know everything, okay?
When I first did the Enneagram, I thought I was a type 2, the helper, because I had not been medicated, diagnosed, or been to therapy. I was stuck in a very toxic cycle of giving without being able to ground in myself. And it was all deeply rooted in trying to find external worth. That was what I thought I was at first.
It was very people-pleasy and
very
like,
people-pleasy.
like the best type of manipulation.
Yeah.
No one thinks about the fact that people-pleasing is technically a form of manipulation.
Oh, no, absolutely. Because you're like, please let me help you so that I can receive love.
Feel better.
It's ultimately a selfish intent.
Yeah.
Which again, all of this is neutral. We all
Yeah.
experiencing these things. It's just how we show up.
Like, also, that's not like the worst way to manipulate people. You know
No,
what I mean?
it could be
I'm like,
so
if
much
that's, like,
worse.
if that's like your worst trait is that you care too much for people, like,
You're too generous.
like you're too generous.
That's
like,
what killed my dad. If you don't mind dying at 58, try it out. So yeah, then when I got out of a bad relationship, I was like, no, I'm not a 2. I'm a 7 because I'm loud, I'm proud, I'm fun. I want to do what I want. I'm going to
spontaneous.
Life of the party.
You can't
This
tame
is
me.
Hot Maddy 1.0.
Yeah.
2015 to 2016-ish era. I was really in my 7 era. And again, that was my behavior. The motivation, very different. What I have come to the conclusion of is that at the core, my core need and motivator is being understood, seen, valued, and validated in who I truly, truly am, which is type 4, the individualist. I was very allergic to the idea of being a type 4 because I had attracted 4s into my life that I wanted to help and demonized their unique qualities because I was too afraid myself to admit that I do want to be seen as an individual and that it can make me moody to be misunderstood and that, like, I do feel deeply. I didn't want to be seen as a wet blanket because that's how people had described a type 4 to me before. When really, type 4s are artists. They're creatives. They are able
expansive.
Exactly. They're grounded in this idea of no one else could be like me. And that's beautiful. Society teaches us that makes you selfish or cringy or whatever. Yeah. But ultimately, I am a type 4. Now, when it comes to the wings, I don't feel like it's wing 5 because I don't need to go internal. But I do think if I were to pick a wing, it would probably be for wing 3, 3 being the achiever. So there is a desire for me to be seen as an individual, but also to be seen well in that way, to be seen as an individual who is succeeding in being herself. And ultimately, when it comes to my instincts, I do have sexual instinct, which is I want full, complete absolution. I want to be so intimately involved that I am seen wholly, that I am like seen and honored for the truest, most like stripped back version of who I am. So I would say I am an individualist with a wing 3, the achiever, with sexual instinct. And that's my diagnosis for me.
And I think you're so spot on. I feel like even in this last year, I mean, I've known you all my life, but I've gotten to know you even more.
Totally.
And then I've also seen you go through the unhealthy version to the healthy version
Whoa.
To some degree. We've talked a lot the last like 6 months. Before that, I feel like when you and I were kind of in our own relationships, we talked less. And because we didn't have like the, spatial proximity, I'm catching up to some of like the in-between things. But I definitely think you're spot on. And I do think that we have one key difference.
Yes. Well, and it's interesting thinking about that spectrum, seeing you kind of go through the levels of stress to growth. As an individual, when I am in distress, I will go back into my giver ways, my people pleaser ways, this version of me that thought I was a 2, the helper.
So 4 goes to 2?
Yeah, in distress.
Okay.
So when I'm in distress, I go into this place of I must forsake myself for the good of being loved and meeting other people where they are, which is definitely a coping mechanism I've had my whole life, but I'm aware of it now. And
where do we go in health?
in health, 4s go to 1. So we're able to take our individuality and become more principled with it and actually create something
like definitive. You're a little bit more disciplined. You can like
Yeah,
finish things.
It's more purposeful. There's
Yeah.
more self-control. Because generally, I don't feel like I have a lot of self-control. But when I'm healthy, I recognize that I am being led toward feeling more principled in myself without having to give up my identity. And that's
Yeah.
the biggest difference between going to a 1 and going to a 2.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to hear what you think you are and all of the fixins.
So I, like Maddy, thought I was a 7 because of the fact that I really have always resonated with Emily Joy, you know, like my purpose being in this world to emit joy, like shine my light. I feel like as time has gone on and the more that I recognize that I struggle to fit in a box, I feel like I do resonate with more of like the need to be individual. I think also too, after experiencing a marriage, I feel like my biggest thing that I craved was to be known and understood. This might sound really silly, but like a pain point that I had was the love languages. We're familiar with them.
Also made by a man.
Yes, you've got the gifting, the physical touch, the words of affirmation, the quality time, and acts of service. I don't want to like divulge too much, but it was frustrating for my partner because I didn't fall into like 1 or 2 of those boxes. I really wanted to be like, no, I actually want you to be able to read me and understand me and be like, oh, I see her behavior. I know what happened to her today. She's having a hard time. I'm going to get her flowers because of the fact that while she might not be truly like a gifts person, I know that these flowers will actually make her feel like recognized and seen and appreciated. So they're actually, I don't know if this is official, but there's been talks about having a 6th love language as just being seen, like just like the umbrella of just being seen and known, which kind of feels like to me, again, I'm like, who doesn't want to be seen? But then I think that's my 4
Some people
coming
don't.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people are like, do not see me.
Do not
only
see
what
me.
I show you.
Fuck off.
Exactly.
Also wanted to add, I'm curious how many, if we could like pull people and do a study on how many neurodivergent people fall into the 4 category.
Yeah.
Because hitting on the fact that this was designed by 2 males, you even said something about how 5s show up the same every single day. I was like, okay, well, that's a very like a male centric thought because of the fact that women don't
have
show up
a 24-hour cycle.
Exactly.
Like
so
men
I was
do.
like, oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. So that's a little bit jaded from the heterosexual male perspective. But I definitely think I'm a 4.
Yes.
As far as the wing, this is where I think we differentiate actually.
I think
I'm a wing 5.
Yeah. I think you are. I think I lean more external and you lean more internal.
Yeah.
With our 4s.
So it's weird because I do feel like I resonate from like the sense of I've always felt really driven and I do want to achieve. And I feel like I've always had really like a high bar for myself, but I don't give a fuck
What
about
you're perceived as.
what I'm perceived as. I think that's like the biggest differentiator. And I very much can also go very like introspective, go internalized. I think that that's like the element of not to put 5s in a box that they're always like introverted, but I think that that's kind of where some of my like introversion maybe kind of comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would have thought, especially as we've talked about my sex life on the pod. Because, okay.
I have thoughts about this and I think they're going to differ from yours.
Okay, so you don't think that I'm sexual?
No, I don't. And I will tell you why, but I would love to hear why you think you are. Because, again, you know yourself.
I do think that I lean towards the sexual category. I am always looking for chemistry and depth and intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say, and again, this is what's interesting, and maybe this is like an unhealthy component. I crave intimacy, and then the moment that it's offered to me, I'm a little bit like at fingers length, like, okay, that's so cute. I love the concept of that.
The concept,
again,
exactly. Okay, continue.
Okay. So I love the concept of it, but then it can feel, obviously, I think I've got some wounding there. But for me, like in all of my relationships, this is not just sexual, I need this like chemistry with people that are in my life. I like the banter. I like the quickness. I like the compatibility and humor and intellect in belief systems, everything like that. And that chemistry is really, really important to me. I've always been don't have a lot of friends. I'm going to have really high quality people that I feel like really match my vibe and energy very well. What is your thought?
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't take Adderall today, so I'm having a hard time holding in all of my thoughts, but I did
That's
it.
okay.
So I totally see what you're saying. And I think that you are motivated by intimacy and by chemistry and that kind of deep connection. And I think that ultimately your motivator is feeling good and safe in your body. Your whole life, like feeling...
Which is the first one. The
self-preservation. Yeah. So it's based in like making sure that like in your body, you're comfortable, you're healthy, you're safe. Your well-being is what's driving the show, and making sure that like you're not being drained of your resources so that you can meet life's demands. And I think that intimacy is a way in which you can feel energized, but you will never take intimacy over comfort in terms of like feeling good in your own self, which is something that I have forsaken before, my own comfort and well-being for the need of being close to someone. And I'm not ashamed of that because it's something I've worked through and I'm working through. But I do think that the motivation for me is that electricity, where I think for you, if you have the electricity, but you feel like shit in your body and like it's not sustainable, it's going to be an immediate turnoff, and you will not want that intimacy anywhere near you. And I think that also comes back to the 4-wing 5 of you are more introspective. You are more internal. You do have a more limited energy supply when it comes to just your body and like your health and how you show up. And that's not a bad thing, but you aren't going to waste your energy in places where it's not necessary. I would be more willing to waste my energy for the sake of the rush. Do you know what I mean?
You're so right. I think my listening skills blew past that first one for whatever reason.
I had a feeling, because it is basically just about like making sure your body feels good.
And that's literally my MO. Okay. So,
well, and that's, again,
I don't know myself.
It's good to know that. And there's no positive or negative there. Like, I have sexual instinct, and I have used that in the past to get me into situations that are not healthy. And also now it is a great asset to me the more that I've understood what intimacy does look like to me, and what like intensity and chemistry, like how these all connect, and what is actually true versus like, again, that rush that seems true. Yeah. You know, we're both in the process of taking our instincts and using them to lean into who we are, ground in who we are, and head toward growth, rather than pretend we're not who we are and be pushed into this like not self that is the giver, the people pleaser, who's going to forsake themselves for other people.
Yeah, this is so interesting. Just looked at myself in the asshole.
So that's the Enneagram. I hope that was streamlined enough for it to not be too confusing. I know there's a lot of information, a lot of data, and there is a test online you could take that we can link in the show notes. And I'll link the book as well.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And if you have any questions about what you think you are, sometimes the best way to figure out your type is talking to people who know you well and who you trust.
And call out your bullshit.
But also, don't talk to people who you don't trust, because they're going to project onto you.
Woo! Projection. Thank you, Maddy, for...
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to be honest, you guys, we didn't have a topic for today until like 22 hours ago. So shout out to Mads for all of this quick research and revisiting a hyperfixation. Really appreciate it. I learned a lot. I know that our cousins did as well. I want to ask you, do you have something off the top of your head that you want for next week's episode?
You know, I don't, but I'm wondering if we do a random word generator type deal. Okay, so it actually gave me 9. I'm going to give you just 3 of them that aren't horrible.
Okay.
Because one of them is pine tree, and I'm not up for it. I'm also not up for lemon.
You do have one on your arm. You do be lemoning.
You're right. You don't.
Okay, fun fact. During my bachelorette party, my sister and Maddy and Lindsay wanted to get a tattoo with all of us, and they wanted to get a lemon that represented our great-grandma, Carmen Lemon, and I didn't want to get it because I didn't feel like I was that close with her, because I think the autism in me really struggles to resonate with old people. But like...
That's true.
And I also think it's like my black and white thinking. My black and white thinking was like, I feel like I cannot tattoo this on my body if I don't feel like it's something significant. I know what you're going to ask. And yes, I didn't feel like empowered to get a tattoo.
It was right before your wedding. So I understand you being like, I'm not going to get a tattoo the day before my wedding. But I also did feel like maybe you thought potentially that would not be loved by said groom. Trying to say this gently. Just saying.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're not going to do pine tree or lemons despite my tattoo. Okay. I'm just going to say transformation.
Transformation.
Transformation. Interpret that however you would like. You can transform yourself. You can transform something else. Transformation, baby.
Okay. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you, cousins. We love you. We love you. We love you.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe,
Rate, review,
download, rate,
comment,
all
share.
of the above.
All of it.
Yes.
We love you.
Engage. We love you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
All right, I need to go eat lunch.
I love you.
I love you. Bye.
Okay, bye.